Hello, boys and girls, and those who bounce in between. Comrade Dankey here with another look into the the state of Tennessee, the state in which I live, the state that I want to be proud of. I want so bad to love the state I live, but it's in a sorry state, my state, and that's has a lot to do with the people who lead it. And one such individual is our brand new governor, Bill Lee. So, this is an article from Vox that says Tennessee passed a law that could make it harder to register voters. This is by PR Lockhart, updated May 3rd, 2019. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed a measure Thursday that fines groups for incomplete or inaccurate forms. Hours later, civil groups filed a lawsuit. On Thursday, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, a Republican, signed a law requiring groups that pay employees and hold voter registration drives to adhere to a strict list of requirements or face civil fines or criminal punishment. We want to provide a fair, for genuine, for elections with integrity, and that's why I signed the bill, Lee said. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. I'm sure this is why the bill is signed, so you could get fair, genuine, and integrity filled elections. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I shouldn't start ranting until I finish at least halfway through the article. So, hours later, civil rights groups announced they'd filed a lawsuit challenging the new law. The lawsuit, filed by Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, the NAACP, and other groups, argues the Tennessee law will, quote, violate the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment and have a chilling effect on the exercise of the fundamental First Amendment rights. The new voter registration law places onerous, unnecessary, burdensome, and unconstitutional obstacles upon people who want to help others register to vote, the lawsuit argues. Gee, I wonder why that is. I wonder why Bill Lee would not want people to be able to register to vote without jumping through a shit ton of hoops and red tape. It says voting rights groups in the state protested the measure for weeks before it passed, arguing that it punishes groups for trying to increase the number of voters in the state. They say they are being punished for their success in the 2018 midterm cycle, which saw a historic surge in voter turnout that helped deliver wins to a number of Democratic politicians across the country. All right, so you heard it here, folks. They are scared. These Republicans are scared. They are pissing their little diapers. They are quivering in fear that black people, young people, students, women, demographics which have historically had very low voter turnout, especially in Tennessee, are now finally having enough. And they're finally coming for them. This is what they're scared of, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they're afraid of. This is why it's not about fair, genuine, integrity-filled elections. This is every bit about these Republicans being scared little pussy-ass bitches and not wanting black people and women and students and young people to come out and vote against them.
We are united and we will get you voted out if you vote for this bill. We mean it. We will organize. We will mobilize. We will
Hell yeah.
come for your seats.
And we will come for your seats. We are going to take every single seat that you fucking goober chuds have in the Tennessee House, and we are going to take them all, ladies and gentlemen, because these people don't deserve them. They're too busy doing cocaine and tweeting about black people, calling them thugs. They're too busy whining like little bitches after they get a styrofoam cup thrown at them. Doesn't even hit them. Uh, the law specifically targets groups that pay people to help register voters. So this isn't even penalizing people who are committing voter fraud. And so any argument that Bill Lee has that this is somehow constituting as voter fraud is bullshit. Because here's how voting works. When you go to vote, you have to show them your registration. You have to show them that you are registered to vote. So the very act of getting people registered to vote, just if anything else, like if there was some kind of fraud going on, it would get stopped at the voting booth. It would get stopped at the when the person went to vote. This is blatantly just about making it uh just scary for people to hold voter registration drives. You have to worry about every single T dotted and I crossed. You have to make sure that every single little thing is fucking filled out. And you know that these Republican lawyers have just scoured these voter registration requirements, and they are making sure it is just super fucking difficult to have a voter registration permit that's up and up, and it's not violating any one of these laws that they've probably made up to, you know, fine people as much as $10,000, while those submitting 100 incomplete forms could be fined as much as $2,000. Again, what if the person you're trying to get to register to vote just doesn't know everything they need, or they don't have all the information with them, or they fill out erroneous information, or something like that? People are busy. It's hard enough to get people to go out and vote. Do you know what could actually fix this whole fucking thing? If we just had automatic voter registration. But of course, Bill Lee, who's in favor of genuine, fair, integrity-filled elections, would want that. He would want it to be as easy as possible for everybody in Tennessee to vote. And what could be easier than having everyone automatically registered? Oh, wait! He doesn't want everybody to vote. He only wants rural white people to vote because they consistently vote Republican. He only wants Southern Baptist good old boys from the South to vote for him. According to the Associated Press, the law also makes it a Class A misdemeanor punishable by a maximum of $2,500 fine and/or jail time for registration drive organizers to miss training sessions led by state officials, or for groups to pay a person for every registration form they collect. The measure also requires organizations to mail in collected voter registrations within a 10-day window or face additional penalties. So, you know, this is just once again more red tape put up to keep people in poor neighborhoods or students or women or any other group that traditionally votes Democrat to go out there and hold voter registration drives to get people to vote. And specifically, this relates to Memphis. This relates to the city I live because they are scared as fuck about black people coming out and voting in Memphis. The Nashville elite are terrified of us, folks. They are absolutely terrified, and they want to keep us poor. They want to keep us powerless. The legislation came months after one coalition, the Tennessee Black Voter Project, worked to register close to 90,000 voters before the midterm elections. Oh, gee, I wonder what. It's just a coincidence that the legislation came just a mere months after uh, the TBVP registered 90,000 voters before the midterms. Last year, the BVP and Memphis NAACP sued Shelby County, Tennessee, arguing that election officials failed to give potential voters time to correct issues on their registrations. So here's the deal. You send in all these registration forms, and then they say, oh, you haven't dotted every I and crossed every T, so, they're all void. All of your efforts out there on the streets trying to, encourage the democratic process, it's all just pissed away because you didn't, you know, it's just because of some reason or another. It's always just some arbitrary bullshit. And that's the point. They'll just if it's not one reason, it's going to be a different reason. They will find a reason to reject these registration forms. They're just gonna if the TBVP tries to do every single thing in accordance with state laws now, they'll find some fucking way to deny these registration forms. Mark my words. The county was later ordered to allow applicants to fix their registration forms. So these fuckers didn't even want us to be able to correct them. That's how against democracy the Republicans in Tennessee are, folks. They are so against democracy that when handed registration forms that they said had errors, they wouldn't even let us have the courtesy of uh, correcting them. And this wouldn't even necessarily get people into voting booths either. It would just get them registered. It's up to the individual person to go to the voting booth. Again, nobody's squeezing anybody's wrist here. As a result, the measure was sharply criticized by voting rights groups and activists in the state who argued that the measure was clearly a punishment for the surge in voter registrations among black communities. This is what I'm saying, folks. The Nashville elite don't want black Memphians to come out and vote. They're scared of you. State officials countered that the measure was necessary after the incomplete forms were submitted last year, forcing officials to rush to review them all before the registration deadline. Haggett said that it cost $200,000 to deal with incomplete Shelby County forms. Well, guess what, dib ass? Maybe Shelby County, maybe Tennessee just in general should have a fund set aside from our big fucking budget uh to correct this kind of thing when it comes out, to pay people to rush to review all these registration forms. Because damn it, if something deserves state funding, isn't it the very means by which our elected officials are, oh, I don't know, elected? Democracy? But I guess the Republicans are just so fucking cheap. They are just looking at the cost of democracy in Tennessee and being, oh, it's too expensive. It's too expensive to process all these voter registration forms. Play me a song on the fucking world's smallest fucking violin because I don't give a flying fuck how much money it cost. I don't give a fuck how much you had to rush and hustle. That's part of your fucking job, dude. But activists who worked with the TBVP said that the incomplete forms were submitted only because of state requirements that groups submit all voter registrations, including ones they know are incomplete. They add that a law penalizing groups for the mistakes on forms is a clear attack on efforts to mobilize black voters. So once again, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you don't send in all your forms, even the ones you know are incomplete, then you get in trouble. But if you send in incomplete forms, then they won't let you correct them, and you get in trouble. So here's what they say. They say black-led community-based organizations throughout Tennessee have been registering more voters, turning them out to vote, and winning more elections for progressive issues and candidates. Cliff Albright, a founder of BVMF, Black Voters Matter Fund, uh, recently wrote in a New York Times op-ed, "The fact that racial progress here is resulted in a white backlash is consistent with Tennessee history." Yes, folks, if there's something I want to cover on my channel, perhaps even more than like socialism, it's socialism in uh, light of Tennessee history. All right, it's very important to understand the history of the state and just how racist uh, the history of Memphis really is. Uh, so he goes on to say, aside from having its priority badly misplaced, the state's actions conflict with some of our nation's most fundamental ideals and, we believe, violate the U.S. Constitution. Bradford Berry, General Counsel of NAACP, said in a statement, the NAACP is committed to having this badly flawed legislation overturned by courts. Tennessee is not the only state to consider creating new penalties for voter registration related errors. In Texas, legislators are considering a law that voting rights advocates believe will punish people for errors on their voter registration forms or for voting without knowing if they are ineligible. This proposal has also been strongly condemned by activists and civil rights groups who argue that the proposal is unnecessary and could hamper efforts to mobilize some voters. So there you have it, folks. Democracy at work in the state of Tennessee. And before I leave you, I want to share this little tale here from Memphis. Tennessee strips $250,000 from Memphis as payback for removing Confederate statues. Once again, the Nashville elite getting back at black voters for exercising their democratic rights. They were perfectly within their rights to do so, to take this fucking piece of shit statue down. This is the statue of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest. This was in August 2017 in Memphis, Tennessee. I remember seeing this statue. I remember wondering why the fuck we had a statue of the leader of the Ku Klux Klan in the middle of the city where Martin Luther King got shot. I remember wondering that for years, and I guess I wasn't the only one because a whole lot of black people were also wondering the same thing. And they took the stupid fucking thing down, finally. In a move that was entirely legal and entirely justified. This is the statue and one of Confederate President Jefferson Davis were removed last year. Yeah, we also had a statue of the president of the CSA, Jefferson Davis. So, yeah, we took those two statues down because, why the fuck are we honoring these people? They fought in the name of slavery. Once again, I remind people that our history is racist as fuck here in Memphis. It says the city of Memphis could lose and they did. This is actually old news, April 18th, 2018. So they went ahead and did this. Thank you, Nashville. Memphis is of course a poor city, and Nashville just went ahead and fucked us in the ass. So thank you, Nashville. Uh, the city of Memphis could lose $250,000 as punishment for removing statues of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest and Confederate President Jefferson Davis last year. The Tennessee House of Representatives voted Thursday to strip the money from the next year's state budget. The sum had been earmarked to go forward planning for Memphis's bicentennial celebrations next year. As NPR Laurel Wimsley reported, the statues were removed last December after the city found a legal loophole. It sold two of its city parks, one with a statue of Confederate President Jefferson Davis, the other featuring General Nathan Bedford Forrest on horseback for $1,000 each. This was a brilliant move. I think, it was a legal loophole and it was perfectly legal. Once again, the people in Nashville are trying to act like we did something wrong by taking these statues down. Oh, it's destroying our history. Boo hoo hoo. Well, it's a slap in the face to pretty much any black person or racially conscious person that sees it. And I, for one, am extremely glad that these shitty fucking statues are finally taken down. They're a disgrace. They're a blight on our city. They're a blight on our history, and they need to not be honored by giant fucking memorials in the middle of town. The surprise move sparked lively debate among lawmakers that came just before legislators were to give the final approval to Governor Bill Haslam's $37 billion spending plan. It says, it angered several Memphis lawmakers, including Democrat Ramesh Akbari, who blasted the decision on the House floor. This amendment and the explanation, it is hateful, it is unkind, it is unchristian-like, and it is unfair, okay? She said, Memphis is a city in this state, and I am sick of the people in the House acting like it's not. Once again, Memphis gets snubbed by the Nashville elite all the fucking time. This is just another episode in the long history of the white Republican dominated Nashville elite just shitting all over the black Democrat dominated Memphians. It's racist as fuck, and it continues to this very day. State lawmakers have been debating all session how to get back at Memphis. They are literally, retaliating for removing the statues last December. Many were angered that Memphis officials circumvented a state law designed to protect Confederate memorials. Once again, why was there a state law designed to protect Confederate memorials? Which groups were responsible in lobbying for that legislation to be passed? I wonder. That organization then took down the monuments, which remained in safekeeping. Your little fucking safe space snowflake monuments are still here, you little snowflakes. So, maybe set aside a safe space while the court sets out what to do with them. So, if all these chuds wanted to, they could just build like a private park somewhere and have them built there. But to have them on public land, that's fucking stupid. Representative Gerald McCormick, Republican from Chattanooga, and other Republicans defended the decision to withhold funding from bicentennial celebrations, saying there had to be consequences for flouting the will of the state legislature. So the will of the state legislature in this case was to keep a statue commemorating the general of the president of the CSA, a state devoted to slavery, and General Nathan Bedford Forrest, the leader of the KKK. The will of the state legislature was to keep those statues up and protected. He says, I think the city of Memphis, like any other city in this nation, needs to, if not obey the law, at least obey the spirit of the law, he said. The law was very clear, and they got smart lawyers to figure out how to wiggle around the law. Yeah, but of course Republicans don't wiggle around the law at all. We haven't seen that in the past episodes that I've covered in Memphis politics at all, in Tennessee politics. The Republicans are just the ultimate fucking hypocrites. They are the slimiest little wiggly worms you've ever seen. That's all they do is find ways to wiggle around the law to get their shitty fucking white supremacist policies passed, their abortion policies passed, pretty much any policy that they want. They will wiggle a way through the law to do it, ladies and gentlemen. And here we have Democrats, black people in Memphis flexing and taking down these shitty fucking statues that are a disgrace to our city. And This is what Republican Sabi Kumar of Springfield said. Revoking the funding was not about Christianity. This is the level of politics here in fucking Tennessee. He says this is politics. This is what was done. What was done in Memphis in removing the monuments. It was basically a sneaky thing to do. Well, fuck you, Sabi Kumar, and all your fucking Republicans in Nashville who turn your nose at us here in Memphis. Here's somebody who, Bo Mitchell, who I admire for speaking out against this blatant attack on Memphians, blatant attack uh, on behalf of white supremacy here in Tennessee that the state legislature wishes to be enshrined and memorialized in our city, the city where Martin Luther King was killed. He warned of bad consequences, not just in Memphis or Tennessee, but nationwide. Because of what you're doing here today is the bad actions of someone who brought arms against their nation and who fought against our country, committed treason, and then was proven a war criminal, and was a slave trader, he said, referring to Forrest. You're going to choose to honor that person here on this floor today and hold it against the city. So yeah, real great stuff coming out from Nashville, from the Tennessee leadership here. Uh, Truly concerned about the big issues like taking down statues of racist slave traders. Those are the real issues plaguing Tennessee, not the opium crisis, not the poverty. Nothing like that. Just statues. And, these are the people that say that the left is a bunch of snowflakes. I think they need a safe space, ladies and gentlemen.